What's going on, fellas? This is common beginner/intermediate mistakes number 8, where I look around the gym, I look around the internet, and see common mistakes that intermediate and beginner lifters around me are making that might be slowing their progress, that are relatively easy fixes. I tell you guys what I think, and hopefully you can avoid these pitfalls, you can help your friends avoid these pitfalls, so on and so forth. Before we get into it, thank you to Max, my brother, the very, very, very strong, large kid that lives about 20 feet from me. He is much more creative than I am. He came up with this video topic as well. So thank you to Max as always. His Instagram is in the description of this video. I highly recommend you give him a follow if you don't already. Very impressive lifter. So what we're talking about today is intermediate and beginner lifters copying the training of elite lifters. So the first kind of logical mistake that is being made here is assuming that what is put on Instagram is reflective of the bulk of their training. What's put on Instagram is reflective mostly of what succeeds on Instagram and probably makes up only a fraction of their total training. But you get the impression that this is the majority and you think this should be the majority of your training. Chances are there are quite a few sub-maximal sets and like lighter bodybuilding accessory work that don't get filmed because nobody watches them, nobody likes them, but they are just as important to their success as these big heavy top sets and PRs that you see that you think should make up the bulk of your training. So that's the first mistake, is thinking that you have a good understanding of a lifter's training just by following their social media, when very often that is not the case. And I can't fault the lifters for this. They're just posting what people want to see. And unfortunately, what people want to see is not the hypertrophy phase sessions. It's not the back down work. It's not the tertiary pressing session. It's just the PRs, which I think can lead to people having a false understanding of how a lot of elite level lifters train. The other thing is making the assumption that what they are doing now is the same thing that got them to the level they are at. There are considerations to their training as elite lifters that might not be as applicable to you. This could be anything from, their just the structure of their program, their training frequencies, their intensities. These could all be something that came about as beneficial once they were already an elite lifter, and they might have been doing something completely different on the way up. One really common example of this is lifters jumping straight into hyper-specificity programs where we're benching 5 days a week, all competition setup, so on and so forth, because high-level lifters in their weight class are doing that. First of all, at your height, there's a pretty good chance, if you're new to lifting, the lifters in your weight class, that's not the weight class you should be in. You should probably be several weight classes heavier. So maybe you should also be looking to the lifters that are your height who are placing highly at nationals, right? But that aside, they'll look to these lifters and they'll copy their program verbatim, their frequencies on the main lifts, their level of specificity. And the mistake in this is that as you become more advanced, the amount of specificity that you need to do to get better rises. Early on, every lift carries over to every other lift, and you can get away with lower specificity training. As you get more elite, you need to tailor off the general training and dedicate more time and resources to the specific things that you're trying to get better at. But when you're a lower level lifter, not only is it not needed, but it's probably preferable not to take advantage of it. We have some early Soviet sports science studies, some early Soviet sports science papers examining what is the best way to develop a young athlete. And they found that hyper-specialization early on was not beneficial. It was actually a worse outcome when compared to taking a young athlete and having them play a wide variety of sports, developing a wide variety of physical traits, and then ramping up the specificity to their sport as needed to get better as they move up the levels of the sport. Much the same, this same principle can be applied to lifting. When we can do a whole bunch of different motions and improve our squat, bench, and deadlift at a reasonable rate, we probably should be training in this more generalized way, building up our GPP, building up our hypertrophy base. And this is what many elite lifters did, whether it was intentional or not intentional. They had been in the weight room for a decade prior to starting powerlifting, doing generalized strength training, doing lifting for sports, playing sports, and building a GPP base. If you are newer to powerlifting, chances are you should also be training in a little bit more of a generalized manner than what these elite lifters are doing. And then when you need to, you hit plateaus, you have somewhere to go. You have a card in your pocket to play to overcome a plateau. when you can ramp up your specificity. If you jump into 5 days a week comp benching, there's not really many places to go from there. So that would be my common beginner intermediate mistake for the day. If you enjoyed the video, this is your reminder to leave a like. Thank you guys as always. Sorry for not posting as often. I've just been struggling like a motherfucker to come up with ideas for video topics. I really enjoy doing them. I am just not the creative type. Thank you guys for watching.